Patreon. Thank you so very much for your subscriptions. I greatly appreciate it. This is the monthly Tarotscope for the sign of Taurus. So for those of you that have a sun, moon, or rising in the sign of Taurus, you may want to watch this, or heavily placed planets, which I would consider 3 or more placements in Taurus as heavily placed. So it could be affecting your February. This is a broad spectrum reading, so you kind of have to take what you need and leave the rest, so to speak. If things fit, great, utilize it to support and validate what you may already know or be feeling. If it doesn't fit, that's okay. It doesn't mean anything's broken or wrong. It just might mean that you might be working on something different at this time. Your houses could be, or the degrees with which you're in that sign could be having an effect on the overall effectiveness of the reading. If you do decide to make any decisions in your personal life after having watched any of my videos, know that those decisions are solely your responsibility, and always never, that never makes sense. Please never take what I say over that of a professional in their field. So if a doctor, a lawyer, a therapist, people like that, if they're giving you advice or counsel, please always listen to them and adhere to them first and foremost over anything that I say. Always use your own intelligence and intuition. All right, let's see what's going on with the energy for Taurus. And then after that, we will be doing Virgo and then Capricorn. Not on this video, but on separate videos. So for the Earth signs, I decided to use the Power Animal Oracle cards. Let's see what animal is going to sort of act as your guide in this first card for the month of February of 2021. Okay, we have snake, healer, or healing. You are a healer. I love this. I kind of like how he's sort of wrapped up. Also, when I think of snake energy, I think of transmutation, like taking things of the past and maybe making them like understood a little bit more, taking them in, finding acceptance for those sort of things, processing those things in a way, you know how a snake sort of will eat the animal whole, and then its body will sort of, the fluids in its body will kind of disintegrate, the bones, the fur, all of that. So to me, when I think about this, and I think about how a snake does that, it's kind of like that transmutation, or when a snake sheds its skin, it like kind of leaves a whole sort of piece of it, or a period of its life behind itself as it sheds its skin and becomes new again. And so in the same way that it sort of eats, it will take the entire experience and break it down bit by bit until it transmutes it completely. And so transmutation is a powerful medicine. And when I think about that, I kind of think of snake energy. So I think of Taurus in their strong sort of, yeah, some people can deem it as stubborn nature, but they can also be like sort of strong, dedicated, purposeful, all of those sort of good things, but also they don't give up, right? And so I like that too. I think that anything that you might be working with from the past might be getting ready to be released, or at least, transmuted into something different. Your perceptions of things could be changing in the month of February. Whatever it is, it should bring about a shift in perception or a shift in perspective that brings about this sort of healing that we see with snake. Remember also, snakes are very like sort of fluid animals in a way. They kind of can move and bend in all sorts of different directions, which is very un-Taurian-like, right? Taurians want to be a little bit more grounded, a little bit more staid, a little bit more immovable. This might be good practice for you guys to sort of think about how a snake moves. It's different than how a bull moves, let's just say that. And, a snake can kind of move sort of silently and bend to the situations that are around it. So keeping that in mind too, that might also bring about some of this healing that we see versus maybe fighting against a situation or within a situation to kind of make it fit our needs. We may not need to do that this month. So let's look at what the tarot cards have to say for Taurus. Now, this first card is going to represent the center card of where Taurus is centered at. during the month. So you'll go in and out of this card throughout the month. It doesn't necessarily mean you'll be in this card the entire month. It gives me insight into not only sort of like what the overview or where your perspective is going to be holding at throughout the month, but it also kind of gives me insight into what you could potentially be creating for the future. So this is the Two of Swords. So this is definitely an indecision situation. This might be why we see this snake kind of coiled up, maybe retracted back from whatever's going on around Taurus. And what it is it's giving maybe Taurus some perspective or some space to kind of heal up any indecision or any questions that you may have. It could be, you know, questions from others, opinions of others that could be affecting Taurus, whatever it may be. But when I see this Two of Swords, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of movement. To me, this Two of Swords can indicate a feeling of being sort of stuck, trapped, in need of a clear perspective and not necessarily having it. I don't feel like this is a what's the word? Like, I don't feel like this is a long-term perspective. Like, I feel like it's temporary or transitional, but maybe in the month of February, you might find yourself going in and out of this. This could be about trusting yourself, Taurus. Like, that's sort of some of it too. That moon in that Two of Swords feels like the cat also has to listen to his intuition, or the Taurian needs to listen to their intuition. You guys have great intuition, actually. And you maybe don't necessarily honor that as much in your day-to-day life. You might be more doers rather than intuitors, but I think that you can have a very strong intuition and should heed that and listen to it. I also feel like we may not necessarily always clearly know the path with this Two of Swords in the center throughout the month of February. That doesn't necessarily mean that that won't change, though. So just be mindful of that. If you feel restricted, if you feel kind of, I don't know, like tied up or and I'm not talking about tied up in a good way, Taurus. I'm talking about tied up like in sort of your mind, your thoughts, tied up in indecision, that sort of stuff. It might be exactly where you need to be, right? Because this Two of Swords this being the center doesn't necessarily indicate that it's a bad place. It just indicates a place where you need to kind of go internally. Listen to your own mind, listen to your own thoughts, try and stay as clear as possible. When we see this snake pulled back and retracted back and curled up within itself, that might be what you might need to do in the month of February so that you can get clear perspective to make a more informed or better decision and listen to your own intuition or intelligence versus others. And what the outside world thinks we should do. All right, so the next card is the Foundation card. This tells me a bit about sort of what the foundation, what was going on in the past that set the foundation for everything to be the way that it is today. It can also be this card that sort of indicates the memory of this card could be sort of pushing things in the now or holding everything in place right now. So let's see what this is. So this is the Five of Pentacles. This is Earth energy, which is your home element, but the Five of Pentacles indicates like sort of a loss or strife, being put out in the cold, not having enough, maybe some struggle energy. There might be some struggling. I kind of get a feeling that this is in the fairly recent past, and I get a feeling this is struggling with the decisions around maybe staying in a situation that no longer suits you or that brings you sadness and pain. That's kind of the feeling that I'm getting, especially with that Two of Swords up above and this healing. I almost feel like you guys might still be in this situation. I feel like the Five of Pentacles doesn't necessarily mean that we've gone through the loss. We've thought about the loss or the departure. The family in this card, these cats on the bottom, look like they're departing and wanting to leave. And what's grabbing my attention with this card is it feels like, did my Tauruses think in the last few months, this job isn't right for me, or this relationship isn't making me happy anymore. This isn't where I want to be in my life anymore. How do I go about changing it? In the process of going about changing it, you understand that there's going to be some sadness. There's going to be some loss, either yours or somebody else's. I do think that some of this is also your own loss, right? Just because you may not be happy with the situation doesn't mean that you necessarily enjoy leaving it, right? And so there's work involved too, I feel like, with this Five of Pentacles. And so do we want to take that on? I think that some of that Two of Swords or that indecision might be going on for us mentally at this time because we kind of know that we're unhappy. If we're not currently in an unhappy situation where we're trying to decide what to do to change it, this Five of Pentacles would indicate times where we've been unhappy before with other decisions or other situations. And I think we need to be mindful of not allowing that those sort of losses, failures, sadnesses, whatever, however we perceive them, to be what sort of scares us into a state of indecision with that Two of Swords, right? Or blinds us in the fear that, oh my God, I'm going to make the wrong decision like I did from the past. That's, that where I lost that thing, right? Because the Five of Pentacles would indicate sort of a loss or not having enough. But I kind of get more of a hit that this is some of you guys sort of in something that doesn't work for you, that you've known hasn't worked for you. I want to say like in the last 2 to 3 months, you've really been looking at it, whether you're admitting it to others or not. You're certainly aware of it. And so it's not bringing you what it used to, is kind of what I'm feeling with this Five of Pentacles. And so the idea is do we move? Do we change? Do we take on the work and the struggle? Or do we hold tight in hopes that it's going to get better, although it hasn't yet? It's kind of the feeling that I get. All right, so let's go to the Spirit or Soul card. This tells me a bit about where the Spirit or Soul is at and what it's looking at. Now, this is also Earth energy. It is Pentacles, which is your wheelhouse, so I like that. I also don't mind that this Five of Pentacles is your foundation, although it is set in this sort of idea of like a little bit of sadness or loss, which is not the best foundation, but I think ultimately fives are about change or enacting the change that we need in our lives. So this is the Two of Pentacles. This is all about maintaining balance and kind of dealing with the rocky sort of stuff that's going on. When this is up in the spirit space, I find it interesting because we have that Two of Swords as the center, like we're fighting within our own mind, but our own natural energy, which would be the Two of Pentacles, speaks to like our spirit is speaking to us in how to connect with who we are and what we truly want or what we truly deserve. And I think that that's what we need to do here, even though maybe in the past when we thought, like, how do I want to say this? When we thought we've gone after what we truly wanted, it maybe didn't pay off, or it didn't sort of turn out to be the thing that we thought that would fix us. That's kind of the Five of Pentacles energy. This Two of Pentacles is like, no, come back to the drawing board, reassess this, revisit this. There's a way to find this within ourselves and to listen to this part of ourselves that is, the true Taurian nature of us, what we desire, how we go about doing the work, how we dedicate ourselves to it and going after it in a practical sort of balanced kind of way, right? Is this going to be easy? Not necessarily, especially with that Two of Swords in the center and the Five of Pentacles as the foundation. This feels like a little bit kind of, I wouldn't say tumultuous, but kind of, there's a bit of an internal thing going on for my Tauruses this month. I do like that we have 2 and 2, which would be a 22 to me. So that to me feels like there's a level of mastery or spiritual awareness that could be coming to you through this struggle right now. So if you're feeling vexed and perplexed, Taurus, have faith that hopefully this is going to lead you to this state of healing where you understand better who you are and what you need, and you're able to go after it in a way that is ideally balanced and in your own nature or within, oh, sorry, it's time to get up, guys. Within your own nature or within your own sort of intuition, that kind of a thing. I think that that's sort of what's happening here, or the power that will come out of this month for you guys, the sort of gift that takes place for you guys. Now let's look at the outside influences. These are things that could be affecting you either positively or negatively that you need to be made aware of. They can be sometimes people or events, sometimes things more vague like belief systems or energies that are having an effect on us during the month of February. So one is the Nine of Wands. This is sort of about building personal barriers, especially with this card. It always makes me think of that because this is such a high fence that this guy's building. And I see that also too with this snake being sort of wound up here in this You Are a Healer. I think that people may want to sort of come in and I almost get this feeling like it's not that we need that the environment is going to make us build barriers, but I kind of feel like the message with this card is that the environment will be coming at us in such a way that we're going to want to retract in the month of February, that we're going to want to put that blindfold on, that we're going to want to not have an opinion, that we're going to not want to engage with people. Like, I feel like the Nine of Wands almost feels like we need you to define your boundaries for us, Taurus. So if you find like outside influences or people requesting like you to pick a side or stake a claim or make a commitment and you're not ready to, that would make sense because of this Two of Swords, because of the Five of Pentacles. That Nine of Wands indicates that. And I kind of feel like it's asking us to sort of, what's the word? It's not like we need to draw the boundary or build the fence to protect ourselves like the normal Nine of Wands would kind of indicate. To me, I feel like the events around us are going to come at us in ways where we're going to feel not threatened, but maybe challenged is a good word. It's almost like I just feel like it's forcing me. And also, too, I will point this out now that I'm thinking about it. This cat is totally blindfolded and walking away, like in the direction away from the Nine of Wands. So if we find volatile situations that make us have to draw a line in the sand, they won't necessarily have to do with us either. That's my feeling too. It might be other people and their stuff, but it's requiring us to sort of, I don't know. The feeling is just like put our 2 cents in, and I just get this weird urgency from this Nine of Wands. Like, it's like, you need to tell me now. You need to tell me now. What is it that you want? And it's like, no, that's not what you're going to do. You're going to maybe pull back. You're going to retract. You're going to try and maintain the balance that we see in that Two of Pentacles, right? Even though the waves are rocky and those pentacles are rolling, we've been through enough in the last few months with this Five of Pentacles that we don't necessarily want any more hurt or harm. And we might not trust ourselves just yet to not say the wrong thing. So those Nine of Wands are asking for us to sort of show up in some way that we don't maybe feel comfortable doing so, is sort of the weird hit that I'm getting. So I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but that's sort of what I think that represents. Let's see what the other influence is. So this is the King of Wands. I'm not going to throw him back. I like that he's here. I like that he's here to show us how to potentially navigate some of these Nine of Wands situations that are going on. This is his wheelhouse. This could be a fire sign for some of you, right? This could be a male fire sign, in charge of stuff, maybe wants to help you in some way, shape, or form. So that would be Aries, Leo, or Sagittarius. If it's not a specific person, right, that wants to show you how to kind of navigate some of these challenges that might be coming at you in the month of February, and be on the lookout for this potential person. It could be. But if it's not that, then I would say that this is about learning through these challenges that we see coming at us through the Nine of Wands, how to rise above them, right? It would be like an opportunity to rise into the energy of this King of Wands, to rise up and sort of master these situations, maybe not get involved in the personal dramas of them or the sort of, what's the word? Like, it almost feels like he's got the capacity, whether he's an actual person outside of us or it's just the experience or the situation that teaches us how to not sink to the level of what the Nine of Wands wants us to get involved in. Because I feel like the Nine of Wands, and this is not necessarily a Nine of Wands traditional meaning, I feel like the Nine of Wands could potentially leave Arcturians feeling trapped. Like that fence that normally they're building there to sort of protect themselves, to me feels like it could be a cage if you're not careful, Taurus. Like if you say the wrong thing, you're going to get stuck in a perspective or in a obligation to someone else. And so I feel like this King of Wands has the information that you need to show you how to adapt in a way that you don't have to run completely, and you also don't have to get caught up in the fray or the other people's kind of stuff, if that makes sense, their dramas in a way. I hope that makes sense. That's just kind of where the feeling that I'm getting. And also, some of this is also stemming off of this snake being very much coiled up, like in this sort of protective mode. Also, that idea that I said at the very beginning about how a snake moves through a situation. We're not talking about snakes in the bad sense of the snake. We're talking about the flexibility and the malleability, right, of being able to move and slither through a situation without necessarily, we're talking about not bull in a china shop energy, right, which Tauruses know how to do, bull in the china shop, let's just say it, to being blunt, to being, maybe to once you get angry, you can't bring it back down, that kind of an energy. We're not talking about that. We're talking about something more with more flexibility. And the King of Wands can maybe show us that, or it can be an energy that's teaching us how to get up there, up above the dramas that might be going on around us. Throughout the month, though, with that Two of Swords in the center, we might feel a little bit unclear on how to do that. We have to pay attention to the signs and signals and not just reacting, right? And also reacting out of this place of sort of lack or fear, which is coming from that Five of Pentacles in the foundation, right? Ultimately, like the theme that I'm seeing here is that something needs to change, and Taurus needs to be responsible for the changing of that, but you're trying to find the right way to go about doing that for everybody involved. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you want to rise to a higher perspective when doing this as best you can. Okay. And so I think that that's why your spirit card is that Two of Pentacles. It's kind of going like, okay, I know things might be a little bit rocky right now, but just let's ground ourselves. Let's get into our own energy. Let's talk to ourselves, connect with our own spirit, get things back to basics, and start to clear our mind and figure out what we want to do. Right. As we do that hopefully that King of Wands either comes towards us through another person or through our own experiences, the experiences around us, that allows us to rise up above it. The King of Wands is always going to be, he's going to be direct, right? But he's not going to be cruel. He's not going to be, he's going to be sort of like, what's the word? Like he isn't going to like take any prisoners either, though, right? He's going to be direct and he will take action. He will make his decision and stand by it and do it from a place of sort of, I think, love ideally, but he's also not going to entertain a lot of the other superfluous attitudes and personalities or emotions of other folks. Does that make sense? And I don't think that my Taurus needs to do that either, because you guys have enough stuff going on in here that feels a little bit, I don't know, edgy or all over the place. You're trying to get that back to normal for you, back to grounded, back to solid. And I think that that's what this snake is telling you to do too, is bring about that healing for yourself. All right, the next card is what I call the potential outcomes card. And the analogy that I use for this card is that it's not set in stone, right? If we see this card as something negative, hold on one moment. My throat's dry. If we see this card as negative, we can use it as a warning to make choices and changes to affect the outcome. But if this card is positive, we can take heart in the fact that we're naturally heading towards it and that we don't have to do much to change it, right? So this is where you guys could potentially end out towards the end of the month. So let's see. Oh, great. We've got the freaky bunny party again. We saw this card in another reading this month in one of the other signs. This is the weirdest devil card I've ever seen. It just makes me feel weird. Devil is Capricornian energy, so I'm not going to take that as a bad thing in the sense that at least it's an earth sign, right? So I kind of like that part of it, but I feel like there's a hard lesson in this for you, Taurus. I feel like there's something that's going on that you guys are either avoiding and like the devil to me showing at the end of the month says like, oh shit, we're gonna have to face it, like, or we're going to have to it's certainly going to be obvious to us by the end of the month. There is a big payoff with the devil because it is major arcana, right? There is a big lesson here. There is a big struggle possibly that we have to kind of get over. There's something that with that Two of Swords and the blindfold and walking that fine line, not making a decision, it's kind of getting out of hand is my feeling. We want to sort of get this under control as best we can. You will at some point, I think so, with this healing card. And the devil is so obvious at the end of the month. It's like, okay, we can no longer deny this. We're going to have to like remove ourselves or remove whatever this is. This Five of Pentacles gives me this feeling that there's something that you're not being maybe 100% upfront or honest about. The Nine of Wands indicates people around you might be feeling that. I don't want to call it dishonesty, but it's like sort of they can feel you're off is kind of the feeling that I'm getting from this reading. It's like they can tell that you're not saying everything that you're feeling. And so they're going to start to ask you this month, like, why are you treating me this way? Or what is it? You know, are you no longer happy at this job? Like maybe it's your boss. It's something like that. It feels like that energy to me. And so if we continue to like pull back, deny, and not speak our truth, or we could end up with this sort of facing this kind of, what's the word? Like proportionally more of a problem by the end of February. That would be the devil. The devil always, though, I will say this, he shows us where our weak points are. He's not like a bad dude in the sense that, I mean, he's the devil. So let's like give him that. We don't want the devil card necessarily, but we don't also, like, what's the word that I'm trying to look for? We want to also know that we're strong enough and brave enough to face the devil and conquer him. Right? Whatever he may be. The devil usually will show up in addictions, procrastination, laziness, slothiness, you know, lay any of the deadly sins against the devil. And that would be him in our lives. He can be, trying to check out of our reality. He wants us checked out, right? He wants us not dealing with the world. And I don't think that I see a little bit of a checking out with this wrapped up snake and with the Two of Swords, but I don't necessarily, I feel like if we continue to check out too much, we could be dealing with a much bigger sort of problem on our hands by month's end. But again, devil is Capricorn energy, so I think that we can face it, Taurus, because it's in your fellow earth sign. So it may be a big pain in the ass, but we're going to have to deal with it, if that makes sense. So I hope that makes sense for my Taurians this month. It looks like a bit of I wouldn't say challenging month, but it looks like a month where you guys are going to have to dig deep within yourselves to sort out whatever is going on around you. And then maybe face those challenges really full on by month's end in that devil card. But I think that ultimately it's going to lead to your healing. Just keep that as your focus. Keep that flexibility of snake. Keep that transmutation energy of snake. And what I mean by that, again, I'll repeat it, is like the way that snake brings in its nourishment is it eats it whole. Like, so taking experiences whole for what they are, finding acceptance over them, and like sort of through, you know, acceptance and sort of maybe perspective, we accept them as they are, let go of all of the sort of bullshit and drama that goes on with them, the feelings and all that sort of stuff, and move beyond that to the next phase, if that makes any sense. That's sort of the visualization that I'm getting in my mind, is like how a snake sort of takes it all in, doesn't really judge it, and his body will, you know, sort of naturally break it down. The perspective of Taurus will naturally break it down, maintaining this sort of balance of the Two of Pentacles and bringing it back to a simpler place that makes sense to us is going to bring this down and boil it down for us. That's kind of my feeling. All right, you guys, I hope that makes sense. Please hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed this reading. I will see you guys next month. And we'll see where this goes. Again, if this doesn't make sense for you and you're watching it and you're like, I don't know what this guy's talking about, that's completely fine. You could have other planets being more affected right now, you know. But if it does make sense, you have to figure out where in your life these cards play out. And feel free to leave comments and questions, and I will see you guys next month. And you can always join me every day on this YouTube channel for the daily forecast. All right. Thank you and have a good day. Bye-bye.